In Cape Town, our KISS wind generator had completely seized up, unable to spin at all. We took the wind generator apart and found that one part of the magnet had broken off and was caught between the rotor and the stator, making it unable to turn because the broken magnet's new location prevented the wind generator from spinning. The repairman there in Cape Town felt his repair with epoxy would not last crossing the Atlantic Ocean, but it actually did, including an entire season in the Caribbean. But alas, one day, while on a nice day sail, I heard that familiar shattering sound and the wind generator once again stopped spinning for good. I was quite sure it was the magnet finally breaking loose again. So we ordered a new set of magnets in preparation and then took the KISS wind generator down to repair ourselves this time. So this right here is the inside of our wind generator, and as you can see, there are magnets. One of the magnets, I guess this one, broke off. So now we have to get all the others off so we can put new magnets on that are stronger and more brittle and bigger, etc., and possibly even a different shape. So Michael's taking off the old ones. The screws do not want to come off, so we're breaking away the magnet around the screw so that we can then either screw it off or put some lubrication on it or pull it off with pliers. And then we'll be able to put the new ones on. We're supposed to wear goggles and protective gear, but instead he's putting a towel around it so nobody has to wear any protective gear except for me. That's what I'm wearing. I ain't taking any chances with these German lenses in my eyeballs. They were a lot of money and I don't want to wreck them. But when we try to screw it out from like one of these that still has the magnet on it, you just cannot get it.
I've got a bush doctor fixing this.
I have everything protected in case he changes his mind and starts whacking it without any towel over it. I have towels over there. I have towels over the TV. I have towels on my face. When a screwdriver could not unscrew it, we tried getting a little bit of leverage. But this didn't work either. We have an impact hammer, but it doesn't have the right
Phillips head
unscrewer. Takes the hammer, whacks it through the towel, and then he takes the hammer, magnet's sticking to the hammer, put the magnets in the can. Wouldn't whack it any harder. Oh God. Did it break anything? I'd say it broke the magnets up. It was somewhat comical how every tool, everything stuck to those magnets.
There you go. They've round it. It just pops out. Weird.
I'm still wearing my goggles. I'm taking no chances at all. Michael doesn't much care about magnets embedded in his body. He's got worse things in there.
Yeah. I just wonder how these magnets will fit my pacemaker.
Oh, you have all the magnets off.
Well, I've just sanded the hub down a little bit.
With a hand sander or just a piece of sandpaper? 100 grit. Just to get all the like residual epoxy or bumps or anything so they all go on at the same height, I guess, huh?
Yeah, there was some scale from the back of the old magnets.
Oh, the one that had broken in Cape Town and was epoxied on there. Mm.
It is a sealed bearing. not supposed to get any water or dust or anything in it, but the stuff that I've sanded off there is pretty nasty. That's nice. So now we've got to prepare some epoxy.
Having fun yet?
Every day of my life. That's what sailing's all about. Fixing shit. Just mixing up the epoxy. Getting ready to glue the magnets on. Okay, where are we going to go? Nice and clean. Trying not to locate the hole would be good as well. Okay, that is going to be bloody difficult to locate with that epoxy in it. Okay, one down.
I can see that you tried to not get any epoxy in the hole, so you can actually see it when you put the magnet on. Wrong the way that they have them shaped, so it's not too difficult. Epoxying the third one, and they go north, south, alternating around the whole circle.
If I can keep my spatula, that's a stainless steel knife that has got more cheap Chinese steel in it than...
So you can't really put them on wrong because they would just repel each other anyway. So you'll know it if you put a north next to a north or a south next to a south. Will that epoxy be able to get off of the face of the magnet easily when it's dried? Or?
Not when it's dried.
What you looking for?
For another magnet.
There's one.
You've hidden them all over the boat.
So they don't stick to the metal things like those two cans right there. So I'm just going to stick it on.
Right.
That's how the screw in. And the reason that he's holding it up while he slides it up is so that it doesn't slide all of the epoxy to the top and there's no epoxy under it. Screw in. No. Screwing in the screw. How many more do we have left, Michael?
One more after this. Is...
These magnets are very, very brittle too, so you have to be really gentle when you put them on or they could crack because they're more brittle, stronger than the old ones. At least we know they're stainless steel screws for sure. That's the last one. Now we just have to clean it off with epoxy.
Just removing epoxy.
With?
I'm using an acetone cloth, but there are no real good solvents for this stuff.
Do you have to worry about the epoxy in those gaps?
Not at all.
The inside basically just windings, just like in an alternator.
I don't know what the chances are that I've lined that hole up perfectly on the first attempt.
So we're hoping that that one screw goes into a part down here in the housing. So what we've done is we've put one screw in. He did get it right the first time because he's a miracle man. And so we've put one screw in there, not all the way through because it still has to go through the front of this. So we can't put all three in because then we'd have to take all three out, but that helps us locate the screw. So he is now getting ready to put this highly magnetized thing in. Don't get your finger in the way of that because it's going to suck it in. And suck it in it did. It's in there.
Okay. Okay, so this can come out now. You see the outer stator steel.
I get there.
Okay, so those little strips, those are metal. That's what the rotor will turn around inside. So that's going to be flush with the rotor once this pulls further in when we tighten the 4 bolts and seat this guy. So at the moment the magnet on the rotor is pulling up onto that stator inside. I don't know if you can actually see that, but it's got play. Very strong, so I don't think mechanically by hand, but you can see there's a gap down there. And up there it's flush. So now when we seat the bearing, this bearing in that rubber bush, it's going to hopefully separate the that magnetic attraction between the stator and the rotor. So that's some kind of a rubber bush. It's a very simple but effective system. It's got a taper on the end so that when you're seating it, it eventually sits on the inside of that and it positions itself properly. But I'm just going to mock it up and see, before we start messing around with Sikaflex, that this thing is actually...
Lining everything up literally sometimes takes hours, but you just got to stick with it, and eventually it does go back together. But just be meticulously looking at it, and you will get it eventually back together again. Okay, now it is. It's because I picked it up. Isn't it threaded?
It's not threaded through the stator on this end. It's threaded in the housing. It's got some seated epoxied in or fiberglassed in nuts in the actual fiberglass housing.
Okay.
So right now the stator's just got a hole drilled through it so that it... Oh, that one's in.
It's really off center right now.
It's okay.
But it was off center.
The whole thing will spin. You can spin this 380 degrees. No, it's 360 degrees. All we've got to do is locate. It's going to be extremely tricky to find those holes. Some nice creaking sounds as it seats itself. But that will now be pushing the stator deeper into the back bearing. I'm leaving just enough there to put some Sikaflex in. Unfortunately, this thing is actually a little bit out of center. That's not our doing. It's always been like that. So these 4 bolts are accurately seated and threaded in already. So we're just going to fill with a sealant over there.
So this is the wire that comes out from the bottom of the wind generator. The only wires in the whole thing, this is what connects down in the cockpit locker that goes back to the on-off switch down below. So we're gonna, before we put up the wind generator onto the pole, we are going to test it and make sure we're not putting it up for nothing. So we're gonna test right now to see if it's working properly. First, we're going to turn the rotor shaft by hand without any of these wires connected. So we're going to go ahead and turn this. Nice and easy. No grinding sounds, no crackling sounds. Very, very nice.
No resistance.
No resistance at all. It's nice and easy, nice and easy, nice and easy, nice and easy. And now I'm going to put these 2 wires together.
Yeah, there we go.
See how much harder it is for him to turn. Now if I release the wires, nice and easy, no resistance. Now I'm going to try that with the green and black wire together. Any 2 wires that you put together.
Same.
Harder. Now I release those 2 wires and it's easier, no resistance. And then I'm going to try the same thing between the white and the black. Now it's hard. Now I'm releasing it and shaft is turning easy. Now I've put a brake on him. Still can turn. It's just much harder to turn. There's much more resistance. And that's what actually is in the switch downstairs. It basically puts these wires together so that it stops the blade, except for in really high winds. In really high winds, it won't stop it because there's so much, wind, it's able to go against the resistance and keep turning. But eventually it does shut off. It works! Yay! So we just finished the wind Jenny, and look what Michael came out of the closet with. Double stuff rings. Oh, my worst addiction in the world. I'm going to take 2 out. Just 2. Ooh, that's a thick one. That's a nice one. Put it here. Wrap it back up. Rubber band back on, and we're going to put it back in the closet so Rebecca doesn't eat the entire package. Because if it sits in front of me, I will eat the entire package. Please, take this away from me and hide it far, far away. Yeah, Michael has his weaknesses too. Don't let him kid you.
My favorite messy job, Sikaflex. So I've loosened the screws on the hub and pulled it apart about 5 or 6 mil. Fold in the seeker, and now I'm going to pull the tape off.
So do you have to push it back together again, or is it all
once it sets, I let it set and then pull the machine screws tight again, and that way you're ensured a seal. So if you had to tighten it up now, all of the seeker I've squeezed in would just come out again. So.
But how hard should it be so that it's not so hard that you can't tighten it anymore?
Look, it is a flexible material. It's always dependent on temperature, etc., how quick it sets off. But I wouldn't mind if it was completely set, and then you just tighten your machine screws a little tighter than previously. There you go. So that's nice and neat. And now we'll just let that set maybe for an hour, and then just touch it and see if it's finger dry. You can start tightening your machine screws, and if it looks like it's just bulging out and hasn't started setting yet, well then you just wait a little bit more, But I'm wanting, effectively what that's doing is I'm creating a gasket. If I had to tighten it fully up against the housing, it would all just come out and you'd get 1 or 2 microns of seeker in there, which is not really great.
So what is it, just to keep water out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm going to put some grease in here.
What kind of grease?
Well, this is a Harken, or what is it? It's some kind of a roller furling. It's a very expensive stuff, but doesn't matter so long as we've got something in there, and that's got to go.
And why would we put oil in there?
It's not oil.
Grease.
Just to get it to spin. So we're going to get grease in there. This inside thing goes inside the stainless steel tubing.
Yeah.
And there's no real contact on this, but inside there is. Inside there.
Okay.
So this is like a big bush, which I should take apart, but it's been sealed quite nicely. I don't want to disturb that. And frankly, I don't think it's really a big issue, but inside there, I'll maybe just put some on the outside of that stainless tube.
The problem with the KISS wind generator that's so frustrating is you look around at everybody's wind generators of every other make in the world, and they're all spinning, and it looks like they're just swimming in electricity. And in the meantime, our blades are out of the wind. They haven't even turned into the wind, and it's like, oh, why aren't I getting any electricity? But the reality with wind generators is you don't really start getting any amperage at least 10 knots, and the KISS is no better or no worse than that. When the wind gets to be 12 or 15, that's when it turns into the wind and starts generating electricity. So when everybody else's blades are spinning and wearing themselves out, ours are completely still. And then when it's time to make energy, it turns into the wind and starts making electricity. But the reason that we're putting grease on the bottom is because I just can't make that jealousy go away. I want it to turn into the wind, and I want it to be able to get energy sooner rather than later. So we're gonna put grease on it just to humor ourselves and try to make it turn into the wind, I don't know, 1 or 2 knots sooner.
We've tied a halyard to support the thing in case there's some kind of a disaster situation. I can let it go and it won't hit the deck or fall in the water and won't swing out and smash anything. So that's just a safety precaution. I'm going to be climbing up over there, and Rebecca's going to be guiding the halyard and also pulling in the electrical cable down the shaft, which we've passed a leader through. So all I've got to do in preparation now is to go and put a little bit of grease up on the top, and then we're good to go. So I need you to slack off this halyard. Okay, you can try and pull down. There you go. Okay, that's pretty good.
Now you need to put a bolt on it, right?
Yeah, and you've got to connect up over there, or do you want to get... No, we'll put the blade on once you've connected.
So I'm tempted to just see if I cut this, then I have to cut all three because they have to be at 3 different lengths so that the things aren't riding right on top of each other. It'll be a few minutes. I know I should be using heat shrink, but the heat shrink didn't work out. It didn't fit over these. So that's the way it goes. If we ever get a really big piece of heat shrink, I'll put a piece of heat shrink over the whole thing. But this is what's been working for 15 years. So this is what I'm gonna keep on doing until which time I get such a good supply of heat tape. It ain't happening here. It hasn't happened for the last 10 years in any chandleries, so it's just, this is the way it's gonna be. So go ahead and leave your comments down below, right down there, about how this is so horrible that I'm doing it this way. But I'm doing it this way.
Let's have a look while you're dissing your own work. There you go. What's wrong with that? Absolutely fine.
And I will put many layers on it, and no water will get in there. Plus, no water gets down here anyway.
Electricians do a worse job, so...
Yeah, so there you go. Blue is at the end of the roll, and it'll be one less roll of tape I have to store.
We will dance away gloomy days right here.
Cut clockwise, the other way.
We are
Clockwise. No, I said clockwise. So yeah, as you turn it clockwise, it makes it tighter and tighter, and that's why it never blows off, because the wind always blows the wind generator in that direction, to the right, to the clockwise, and it just makes it tighter and tighter on the shaft here, so there doesn't even need to be a nut or bolt at the end of it. I think that's good. It's making about 12 or 13 right now, and I don't know, 15 or 20 knots of wind, something like that. So yay, we got it going. Good job, Michael. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, off.
Just like that.
Hey, darling, can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey, darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, won't see it now.
Not like crossing oceans. We are Rebecca Childress from the USA and Michael Hayward from South Africa on board my 1976 Valiant 40 brick house.
6.5.